Well, let's crack on with the news agenda in the company of my brilliant panellists, Leilani Dowding, Tony Parsons, and, of course, Sophie Corcoran. This week saw the launch of a new standalone thriller by our very own panellist tonight, Tony Parsons. It's called The People Next Door. The story is about Tara Carver, a young, successful businesswoman, happily married with a handsome stay-at-home husband and a young son.
No, that's actually the last book, Mark.
This is absolutely brilliant.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that's your autocue from the last time you interviewed me.
We've been recycling.
I know we've overtaken ourselves here.
I tell you what an exciting 5 minutes of live telly it's been. We've got The People Next Door.
The People Next Door. Even better than the last one. Even better than Your Neighbour's Wife. This is kind of my attempt. It was really during the pandemic. I was reading a lot of Ira Levin, my great fictional hero, and hero of fiction, and reading Rosemary's Baby and Boys from Brazil and Stepford Wives, and wondering what would Ira Levin make of the pandemic? What would be the novel that Ira would write in these times? So it's about a young couple, which is often the starting point for an Ira Levin book, who moved to a beautiful new home out in the leafy countryside, and they've got secrets. They bring secrets with them, and it's about their secrets and the secrets that their neighbours keep, and how no secret can stay hidden forever.
Does it tap into that sort of British fascination with what's going on next door? You know, the twitching curtains, the fact that we're a bit of a nosy bunch.
It does tap into that, and I think it also tries to tap into the general sense of anxiety there's been in this century, and it's been building, and it's, you know, starting 9/11, the great financial crash, the pandemic, Ukraine. There's a feeling, I think, that we understand finally how fragile life is and how fragile our lives are, in a way that for someone like me who was born after the Second World War, grew up in peace and prosperity, really thought that my life would never be tossed and turned, and the lives of the people around me would never be disrupted by great global events that I couldn't control, the way my parents had their lives disrupted, or my grandparents had their lives disrupted. And there was a sense that, that Fukuyama thing, the end of history, there was a sense that we'd reached this place where nothing bad could happen. And now we're no different. Yeah. And now we're no different. And really it's about the secrets that the neighbours keep. It's how they react to that general sense of anxiety. It's how they deal with feeling that it could all fall apart. It could be some guy eats, some bat soup in Wuhan, and then the next minute the greatest health emergency of 100 years is, or there's finally in history, there's for the first time, there's a mad bastard with nuclear weapons for the very, very first time. And so it taps into that. Hopefully it's a good yarn. Hopefully it's another good page.
And paranoia being a free theme.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it, and that was a big part with Ira Levin, with Rosemary's Baby, with the Stepford Wives. That feeling. I mean, Stepford Wives is built on paranoia and fear of feminism, fear of women getting stronger, fear of women becoming the equals of men. It's built on that. Although it's a great story, it's a fantastic story, and they've made a couple of one great film and one pretty bad film, but it's just an eternal theme. And what Ira Levin was great at was dramatising that, was turning that sense of paranoia and fear and anxiety, turning it into a great story where you just want to know what happens next. So that's that. But I'm so sorry to interrupt you all.
No, I'm so glad.
But I'd heard it before.
You might have heard that spiel. Can you give me a précis of The People Next Door, your brand new book, not last year's bestseller?
Yeah, it's a story of a young couple that leave London, that flee the city. Some terrible trauma happened to them, happened to their marriage, which they don't tell anyone about, can't tell the police about, and they move they move to leafy Oxfordshire, and the people that they're surrounded by seem like dream neighbours. They just seem like these beautiful, well-educated, affluent people, but they're all afraid of something. They're all afraid of something, and they're all reacting to something, and they're all holding a really dreadful secret, which emerges in the so it's ordinary people in an extraordinary situation.
Does it have a flavour of John Grisham's The Firm, where all is not what it seems?
There's I think Grisham wrote that book in the shadow of IR11. It's a great book and a great story, a great novel. But I think it does have that where you feel as though you're buying into this new life, where you've finally made it and you're finally safe.
So the first chapters of this book, it's just like a dream for the characters.
Exactly. Yeah, people giving them honey and telling them that honey will last for 1,000 years, which it will. And just feeling, wow, my neighbours are bringing me food that's going to last for 1,000 years. The sun is shining. How can anything go wrong?
And our relationship with our neighbours is a complex one, isn't it? Because in a sense, we cohabit with them, and they are stakeholders in the area in which we live. And we've got a common goal, a common interest: peace and quiet, safe streets. But they're not really our friends, are they, neighbours?
Well, I think they become your friend. They can become your friend. I don't know about your neck of North London.
I'm friendly with my neighbours.
Yeah. How long have you lived next?
About 10 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's what in the first page of the book. Lana says, I'm a city girl, so I'm not used to people bringing me honey. I kind of, after 10 years, I just about make eye contact at Christmas. So I think it's that, it's that city paranoia. But I'm friendly with my neighbours, but that's knocking on for 20 years. So it's,
Yeah, I've not earned my stripes.
I'm shortbread at Christmas now.
Well, no. Look, it's really, unfortunately, my neighbours might be watching the show, and I'm going to be in big trouble now.
Yeah.
But
they'll be inviting you in every night.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. Lots of honey.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting theme, isn't it? The idea of, as a basis of a book about what's going on next door. Because that's what they say, isn't it, Sophie, that you don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah, I would love to snoop on my neighbours. I live in a lovely place in rusty, dusty Thurrock, and we have some interesting things. And if there's ever like a cop car that pulls out upside, you best believe I'm the first one at the end of my driveway. Or if there's a fire or something, I'm the first one there. I'm so nosy. So nosy. But there was a real neighbourhood competition, especially in lockdown, as we speak about it. That whole clap for the carers rubbish, right? So, everyone would start clapping, and you'd get old, Brenda across the road, who's little Johnny, can't do no wrong. And all of a sudden, they're on the pots and pans, they're on the car. They just got to one-up everyone, didn't they? So there's a real neighbour competition, I think. We sort of look past and think, have it.
Yeah, there are stories of sort of spooky neighbours, aren't there? Maybe the darkest example would be Joseph Fritzl or something, a secret family living in the basement. But you do wonder whether in this country, our obsession with privacy, Leilani, means that a lot more goes on behind closed doors than we might realise.
Yeah, I can imagine so, definitely. There's who knows what's going on, but I've tried to get out into the countryside to be even more private and get behind some gates because, during lockdowns, obviously, you had very, very nosy neighbours trying to see if you had people round, if you were out for longer than you were out.
Were you taking your exercise?
I was.
People were snitching on each other, weren't they?
Snitching on each other around us as well.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't take exercise, so I was fine.
Well, I was out exercising for about 6 or 7 hours.
I bet you were.
But I think that's the thing as well. I think that the lockdowns caused a lot of friction, but I think they also caused friendships because then, I had secret little meetings with friends that came round, or some of my friends who had kids wanted their kids to socialise with other kids. So it's like, come round quickly, let's close the blinds, let's hide, make sure no one can see through the windows.
Could you imagine if your neighbours like mayonnaise on pizza, though? That's the sort of thing I need to know, because if they do, then they live in a bunch of next psychopaths, innit? Move house.
Well, too right. It's also timely. It feels quite topical given the number of people that escaped big cities during the pandemic. The theme of this book of the idyll, the lure of the country, which for many has turned out to be anything but, Tony.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's a huge mistake to give up the city. I think it's a huge mistake for urbanites to think that out in the, one of the things that the book is about thinking that that trouble stops once you leave the city. And I think that countryside can be a lot more dangerous and a lot more intimidating, and be fraught because I think there in the book, secrets are easier to bury, quite literally. There's a secret buried in under a swimming pool, and there's one of the great debates about Lana's mental health? Is she imagining it? Is she just a paranoid city girl? Or is there really something out there?
It's been a revelation, your publishing career, because not only were you a music journalist and a TV presenter, and of course, you know, you've written semi-autobiographical books which have been turned into films. Then you got into thrillers. This one is The People Next Door. It's a page-turner. It's got suspense. That was a big step for you creatively, wasn't it? And even financially, when you started to write crime thrillers.
Well, because my big hit was Man and Boy, which is a book about fathers and sons and families, and it was quite an emotional, heartwarming, cockle-warming book which people loved. And I just got to a point where I wanted to write thrillers, and my agent Johnny Geller said to me, "Well, I think it's a really good idea, but you're going to have to start again. You're going to have to go back to the start. You're going to have to prove that you can do it. Prove it to yourself. Prove it to me. Prove it to the industry." So I cashed in my life savings. Took a couple of years to write The Murder Bag, and did think, as I was coming to the end of it, is this a crazy, rash thing to do? Because I'm not a kid, and I've got a family. I've got a family that rely on me. There are people that rely on me to support them, and I'm rolling the dice on this book. And there's the thing about publishing a book is that you're really buying a lottery ticket, and there's never, and no matter what you did last time, no matter if you sold millions, there's no guarantee of what you're going to do. So it was, it was a gamble to do that, and you
go into crime fiction or thrillers like this. You're playing with the big boys.
Yeah, you're playing
and the big girls.
And there's a lot of
established people that dominate the genre. Right?
You're having a kickabout with Lionel Messi, and there are a lot of really good people.
Stephen King, Here I Come.
But it sold in 24 hours. And went to #1, and so got away with it. But it was still quite a reckless thing to do.
Well, listen, we're very excited about this one. We finally ascertained the title. And
you loved the last one so much that you're still
obsessed with it.
Fixated on that.
The People Next Door. They know your secret. Creepy and shocking. I loved it. Alex Michaelides, also Jane Fallon, who is, of course, a brilliant published author herself, and Ricky Gervais's other half. Dark and unexpected, kept me gripped from start to finish. The People Next Door is by Tony Parsons. It's out now.